Everything that you just saw, of course, was filmed on this little guy, which is the Insta360 One X2. It's a handful to say, but it's quite a capable little camera, and I'm calling it. I'm saying that this thing is the coolest and the funnest camera that I have ever used, hands down. And it's amazing. Maybe I'm late to the party. This is my first 360 camera. It does require a little bit more work than your typical camera footage, but man, is it worth it, and it's a lot of fun to use. So we're gonna break this thing down today, everything that you need to know about it as usual, to figure out whether or not it's for you or not. I'm loving this thing, and I gotta say, I am definitely one to suffer a little bit from some seasonal depression. Out here in the West Coast, it rains a lot, it's dark very early, and man, this thing came just in time to get me out of a funk. Thank you so much, Insta360, for sending me this bad boy for review, but always, like everything that I review, it's completely my own opinion, and they have absolutely no input on this video. So I'm gonna break it down and tell you the good and the bad, and hopefully figure out whether or not you should be considering this guy. So let's dive right in and check out this thing physically. It is pretty small, as you can see here. It fits in your pocket, and it does a pretty good job at being discreet. You will notice that the lenses here do protrude on both sides, and that is a little bit worrisome because if it falls over, yeah, you got some issues. So that's one thing that you must really realize when you're investing in a 360 camera. It's kind of inevitable, but there are some ways to protect against that because you don't want to have that scratched. I imagine it's probably pretty expensive to replace. So that's one negative of a 360 camera. Luckily, there are things like this little rubber cap here. You throw it on when you're not using it, and I leave this thing on all the time unless I'm filming, and the second I'm ready to film, I take it off, and when I'm done, I put it back on. I'm not gonna lie, there has been a few close calls, but it's pretty beefy, this thing. It stands up to a lot, but you do have to be aware and be a little bit careful. So it's got a great rubberized build. It's very grippy. It's waterproof completely, which is amazing, which means you can throw it underwater. It can be rained on, mud, it doesn't matter. That's a really good thing for any action cam, an absolute must if you ask me. The battery life is incredible. Over 2 hours in my experience, which is great. And these are things that I'm gonna throw out there right away because these are the most important things for me. Battery life, yeah, you can replace the battery, but honestly, you're not gonna really film more than 2 hours a day with this thing, probably. So that's ample for everything that I've gone out and shot, and I think they've done a great job. I never owned the original one, the first version of this camera, but I will say, if you don't know, that the battery life has been drastically improved. So that's pretty cool. It does shoot up to 5.7K at 30 frames per second, and that might sound impressive, but there is a caveat with that. Now, with any 360 camera, you might know that you're actually filming in 360 degrees all around you at all times. So that 5.7K is everything. So if you do want to focus on one thing, and that's really what you're gonna do with your footage eventually, is actually choose where you want to be looking later in post, it's not really gonna be 5.7K anymore. So the more that you zoom in, the more that you really dial in where your subject is, the more that that footage is gonna be compromised. So do keep that in mind, but absolutely you can still get some amazing looking footage. Is it an A-roll? Is it amazing cinematography camera? Absolutely not. It's not gonna take the place of your full frame mirrorless or something like that for filmmaking, no. But it is a fantastic action camera. It's gonna be great for B-roll, and I'm just having a heck of a time. It's super creative, and I can't wait to show you what this thing can do. So do be aware that with any small or action camera, they are limited by their sensor size. And that means it's not gonna have absolutely amazing low light capabilities. It is what it is, but it does hold its own. But for best results, you're definitely gonna want to use it in good light. And that's really not a problem when it comes to most action stuff because you're probably outside midday. Are you gonna take this thing out at night? Probably not, but you still can and get some decent results. So what about the stabilization of this thing? GoPro's got some pretty sick stabilization these days, and so does the Pocket 2 by DJI. So how does this thing stack up? Well, it's actually insanely good. And here's a comparison showing you the footage of my Pocket 2, which is a gimbal camera, and this Insta360. It's absolutely incredible. So it really doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing snowboarding, high-speed sports, on a motorcycle, on a car, it doesn't matter. You're gonna get some great stable footage. Great job on the stabilization. Another thing to note is that this is a very beginner-friendly camera. This thing is going to be fantastic if you love to use your phone and you're reliant on apps to use things. Maybe you don't have a crazy good editing rig computer. Well, Insta360 has done an insane job at giving you the ability to edit and to throw things up on social or export them for other uses really easily through the app. It's probably one of the best apps that I've actually seen, I gotta say. And utilizing their shot labs, you can get some of the most amazing, mind-blowing creative things that I've ever seen, and they're constantly adding more and new things. So if you are just getting into camera stuff and you might not know a heck of a lot about it or have many expertise, well, just the auto setting is gonna do you fine. And in the app, you're gonna be able to take care of a lot of things to get some really great footage really quickly. So if you're a creator like me, or you just wanna maybe use some 360 footage, do be aware that there is pretty much an extra step involved rather than just importing your stuff right into your editor and going from there. There are some plugins that you can use in Premiere Pro, but you can use the app like I said, export it out, and then throw it into your project. It's really one extra step, but in a lot of cases, it's totally worth it. So for me, the best thing about this camera, and really all 360 cameras, is that you hit the record button and it's recording everything. You shoot then, and then you go ahead and post later and choose what you want to focus on. And that's the beauty of this thing and where it really shines. You can do incredible things like split screen like you see here. Then you can dive into the app using your phone screen as a viewfinder to get the perfect shot that you're looking for. As you're probably aware, a lot of the action usually comes from the direction that you're not pointing the camera in, and in this case, it doesn't matter, you're covered no matter what. Of course, you can also zoom in and out freely to get some really creative and different perspectives. How cool is that? You can take the same footage and edit it in several different ways to get completely different looking effects. And here's a perfect example of that. Here's some standard footage using some tracking, which also happens to be very good, as you'll see in a second, but a very standard clip. Here's the exact same clip, just fooling around in post and really taking advantage of capturing that 360-degree footage. This time I opted for a rotating tiny planet effect. Pretty awesome stuff. 3 completely different edits, same exact footage. So I did want to touch on the amazing tracking that this thing's capable of, as well as the AI editing abilities. You've seen that it can create some amazing things in ShotLab like the clone trail and whatnot, but check out this clip right here. This entire clip was edited from the app's AI. It decided everything. The composition, the speed, it even added the music. Absolutely incredible. Honestly, one of the only limiting factors of this camera is your creativity. It's capable of so much, so just be creative and have fun with it. I sure am. Okay, so let's go over a few more things. I'm gonna power it on here and start filming, and then we can see the difference in real time. It powers on, as you saw, in just a few seconds, so pretty quick to get up and running. And let's hit that button to have it start recording. Now it does take a second to actually get going, but now it's recording, and here's what the a7 III looks like from Sony, which is a full frame mirrorless camera, and this is what the Insta360 looks like in real time here. Now again, the benefit of this thing is that it's filming everything always, which is great because things happen not in the direction that you're pointing the camera more often than not, so it's really cool to be able to shoot now and then pick whatever you want to look at later. So another big important factor these days is the audio performance. So how do you perform when it comes to audio? Well, this is how it sounds. This is exactly what the audio sounds like about a foot away, and there is no external audio capabilities like something in the Pocket 2 from DJI. I do love that vlogging feature where you can step back and have this thing filming you and still be able to talk and have good audio. So do be aware that you are a little bit limited from your audio in this thing, but you be the judge. How does it sound, the audio coming out of this thing right now? For me, it's nothing groundbreaking and it's not the worst, but I don't know if I'd use it for like A-roll type of stuff. What do you think? Now I think primarily this is a video camera, but of course it can do photography as well. I'm not going to focus on it in this video because, well, we don't have time to cover all the things that this thing can do. Here's a few shots that I did take. You can get some really creative shots, easy and quick panoramas, and you can use voice control to take photos as well as videos. There are a ton of features that I can't possibly cover in this video without it being an hour, but you can also go live in 360, have meetings with everybody in the room. They really did pack a ton of stuff into this little camera. So let's talk about accessories. Luckily, there are a ton of accessories. It's got a great convenient 1/4-inch mount. And honestly, the accessories that they thought up of are phenomenal. This is just the telescoping handle here, almost like a selfie stick, but this one actually converts into a little tripod really quickly. So you can throw this thing down and utilize a lot of their shot lab stuff, or just film yourself or run around it or do whatever you want to do really quickly, really simply. It's also really great for if you're in real estate or if you want to do maybe like an open house or a tour or something, you can run through the house, or if you are maybe on vacation, and really take advantage of the simple, easy to use, shoot now, edit later, and just get some great, awesome shots. So there are a ton of accessories, like I said. This one I totally recommend. Definitely pick up this tripod / selfie stick kind of thing. Absolute must have, but there are some other ones that I opted to get as well. This is a selfie stick, but a much bigger one. It telescopes out to almost 10 feet to get some really cool shots. And I personally didn't opt for the Insta360 version, well, mainly because of its price and the availability where I live. This thing was only about 30 bucks on Amazon. I'll throw links in the description of all this stuff, but definitely worth picking up to get some crazy, insane drone looking shots. Check that out for sure. This is another must-have in my opinion. This is a big magnet base, so you can go ahead and just slam that thing on the side of your car, the top of your car, or anything that's metal, and it's gonna sit there really, really well. It's got a ball head on top, and also it does come with a little strap looking thing so that you can tie it to your mirror if you're going fast, just for some extra security as well. But this thing also is gonna double as a pretty secure base, so if you just wanted to talk to it or selfie yourself or whatever, then you got a base as well. So another great accessory, and there are literally a ton of other ones. These are just the 3 that I find myself using the most just because of their versatility and their low cost. And I definitely couldn't forget the awesome bullet time cord. Attach this thing to your camera in a couple seconds, spin it around you, and get some insane shots at the 3K 100 frames per second slow motion this thing offers. It's tiny, it fits in your pocket, it's a definite must-have. So before we wrap up, let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this little guy. One con, like I said, is that the lenses do protrude out and that you are at risk, if this does fall over, of needing a costly repair. So that's kind of a negative that's inevitable when it comes to 360 cameras as far as I'm aware of, but it is what it is. So other than that, it is a fantastic and very easy to use and very fun camera, so it does have that going for it. As far as its capabilities, shooting 5.7K is pretty darn impressive. It's not a huge upgrade in terms of resolution, but it does have a higher megabits per second or overall image quality over the last version. So it does have that going for it as well. As you saw, it's got different modes like time lapse, like time shift, like all sorts of crazy stuff, more coming out all the time. It's got a ton of different accessories, and it's a great size and weight that you can throw in your bag and totally forget about. Another thing that I love about it is just its sheer ease of use. You shoot now and you edit later because you can be confident it captured literally everything going on around you. And that's amazing because things don't always happen just where you're pointing the camera a lot of the time. So love that aspect of it completely as well. Another negative, because I'm trying to come up with a few of them, is that it does take an extra step of editing, and if you are a beginner, it might be just a little bit daunting to you. But don't be scared, it's super easy to use in the app and you'll learn really quickly. So let's leave it at that. That's my experience with the Insta360 One X2. Loving this thing so far, and let me know what you want to see me do with this thing and any tutorials or other videos on it, and I will be sure to give you what you want to the best of my ability. If you like this video, guys, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, join the community, and like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you next time.